In an alternate Earth, humans start developing advanced robots with artificial intelligence known as simulants or sims. These sims quickly become integrated into everyday life, and to make them more human-like, individuals volunteer to have their faces scanned and replicated on the robots. As a result, sims are not only used as workers but also as companions, athletes, and even law enforcement. However, in 2055, a nuclear warhead explodes in Los Angeles due to a government-created sim, resulting in the deaths of nearly 1 million people. This catastrophe leads the Western world to implement a ban on any use of artificial intelligence. Meanwhile, New Asia continues to support and regard sims as equal citizens. The United States initiates a mission to eliminate all sims and persistently attacks New Asia in pursuit of this objective. Their primary weapon in this campaign is the Nomad, an enormous space station designed to scan the area for signs of sims and swiftly eliminate them. The Army's ultimate goal is to locate a person known as Nirmata, who is the leader and scientist responsible for the advancements in artificial intelligence. 10 years later, a group of American soldiers arrives on the New Asia coast while the Nomad surveys the area from above. Joshua resides in close proximity with his expectant spouse Maya, who possesses a distinctive tattoo. Suddenly, they perceive a sound, prompting Joshua to equip himself with his mechanized limbs in order to investigate and locate their simulated companions. A squad of guards, under the command of Harun, has apprehended an American soldier named Drew, whom they discovered clandestinely infiltrating the area. One of the sims proceeds to assault Drew in an attempt to extract information, but Drew remains silent, while the threat of the Nomad draws nearer. The group collectively decides that it is time to depart and search for a new concealed location. Consequently, Harun's team hastens to prepare the boats, while Maya undertakes the task of packing. Once alone, Joshua reproaches Drew for failing to provide him with additional time. Unexpectedly, it is revealed that Drew is also an American soldier engaged in a covert mission and he married Maya due to her being the daughter of Nirmata. As the Sim soldiers engage in a confrontation with the American troops, a fierce gunfight ensues outside. Joshua seizes Drew's radio and implores the commander to cease the raid, as Nirmata is not present. Maya, who overhears this conversation, becomes greatly distressed upon learning that Joshua did not truly resign from the army as he had promised. In her anguish, she points her firearm at Joshua, only to be interrupted by the soldiers who forcibly remove Joshua from the premises. Maya flees and joins the Sims on the boats, but at that precise moment, Nomad launches a missile, resulting in the demise of all aboard the boats. 5 years have passed since Joshua last set foot in the United States. Now, he's back and trying to adjust to life as a civilian. He takes medication for his PTSD and attends regular therapy sessions, during which he's hooked up to a lie detector to ensure he's forthcoming about his experiences. Joshua has found work as part of the cleaning crew at Ground Zero, where one day he and a colleague stumble upon a robot that unexpectedly comes to life. The robot pleads for mercy, causing Joshua's co-worker to panic, but Joshua quickly shuts it down, reminding his friend that robots are nothing more than machines without emotions. All discovered robots are taken away to be destroyed. At home, Joshua watches videos of Maya, remembering the time she customized his robotic limbs. He recalls the day he lost them in the nuclear explosion that hit Los Angeles, which also claimed the lives of his entire family. After a swim, Joshua is unexpectedly approached by General Andrews and Colonel Howell, who need his help with a mission. They've learned that Nirmata is developing a powerful weapon capable of destroying Nomad, and without that ship, the USA would be at a significant disadvantage in the war. Joshua is the only person familiar with the lab's layout, making him the perfect guide for a team tasked with destroying the superweapon. Initially, Joshua refuses, pointing out that the situation could have been avoided if they hadn't sabotaged his previous mission, reminding them that they were responsible for his wife's death. However, his decision quickly changes when Howell presents him with a holographic video as evidence that Maya is still alive and collaborating with the powerful weapon. Joshua joins Howell's team in the middle of the night and they journey to New Asia. After scanning the area, Nomad and the team touch down in a field and Joshua leads them towards the lab, only to discover that a village has been constructed on top of it. The soldiers opt to invade the village and begin interrogating the locals, holding them at gunpoint and on their knees. McBride threatens to harm a dog belonging to a child, which causes the young girl to cry and tremble. Joshua realizes that she is pointing towards an altar, and upon twisting a totem, the entrance to the lab is revealed. McBride and Bradbury remain outside to stand guard while the rest of the team enters the lab. They make their way through a lengthy corridor, eliminating the technicians they encounter. Joshua checks the security cameras and locates Maya's presence. The team continues their mission, targeting more scientists, but this time the workers manage to lock the doors, which are resistant to bullets. Joshua explains that the locks can only be opened through facial recognition, prompting one of the soldiers to resort to using a knife to retrieve the face of a deceased technician. Meanwhile, Bradbury notices the approaching police and launches several missiles before pretending to surrender. The police attempt to apprehend her, but Bradbury's missiles strike, instantly eliminating all of the simulated opponents. Regrettably, more police officers arrive shortly after and begin shooting at her, forcing her to seek shelter. The team proceeds deeper into the laboratory and locates a secured vault that requires hacking to gain entry. Shipley and Joshua stay behind to work on hacking the vault while the others engage in combat with the approaching guards. However, they start losing team members rapidly, prompting Shipley to rush to their aid. Finally, after the computer finishes hacking the lock, Joshua opens the vault and discovers a child sitting on a couch watching TV. Joshua is taken aback by the realization that the child is an artificial intelligence, something that has never been accomplished before. Suddenly, a scientist appears, shoots Joshua, and grants the child access to an emergency exit, instructing her to find Nirmata. The child emerges from the lab and witnesses the outside world for the first time, but she also witnesses intense fighting on the battlefield. Joshua follows her outside, desperately searching for Maya among the fleeing scientists to no avail. Meanwhile, the rest of the team returns to the plane, explaining their defeat and the urgency to depart before Nomad initiates an attack. However, Howell insists on checking something first and leaves the scene. Bradbury attempts to return as well, running as fast as she can, but she is struck from behind. Despite the setback, she manages to board the plane just before it takes off, only to discover a bomb attached to her body. The bomb detonates mid-air, causing the plane to crash nearby, which in turn knocks Joshua off his feet just before Nomad launches the planned bombing of the area. The following morning, Joshua wakes up on a boat and notices a robot girl staring at him. He attempts to shoo her away by throwing a rock at her, but she simply throws it back. Joshua then explores the area and finds a wounded Shipley, whom he takes to an empty house to hide from the searching police. They soon discover that the robot girl, who they realize is a superweapon, has followed them and is watching TV. When Joshua's communicator rings with a call from Howell, which gets the attention of a farmer sim nearby. Joshua tells Howell about the kid and the colonel orders him to kill her, but their conversation is cut off when Howell is surrounded by cops. She immediately gets arrested and thrown in a van with McBride and Officer Bowie. Back to Joshua, he hesitates to shoot a child and puts down his gun when he notices the girl is drawing Maya's tattoo. Suddenly they're found by the farmer, who promises to protect child. Joshua's translator reveals the sim's plan, so he quickly shoots first, killing the farmer but also alerting the cops of their location. Then Joshua asks child where he can find Maya, and the child says she's in Diendang. At that moment the cops surround the house and open fire, so Joshua drags Shipley and the girl into the farmer's truck. When the police throw a grenade at them, a dog grabs it and takes it back outside, blowing up all the cops and barking and the remaining pieces. Then the girl uses her power to activate the truck and the group manages to escape. Meanwhile McBride and Howell team up to kill Bowie and take over the van, turning it around to go looking for Joshua. Sometime later, Shipley points a gun at Joshua to ask for a hospital, but Joshua explains they're too far from an American base and he'll take him to see a friend. Unfortunately Shipley's wounds are too serious and he dies in the truck. In that moment, Joshua notices a car approaching, so he conceals the girl's robotic head with a hat. Since she lacks a name, he decides to call her Alfie based on the Alpha Omega label on her ear. When the car stops, Joshua approaches the driver with his gun and demands a ride to the city. Shortly afterwards, McBride and Howell discover the deserted car in Shipley's body. Howell uses a device to transfer Shipley's consciousness into Bowie's simulated body for a brief period, but Shipley becomes frightened upon seeing his own body and only manages to mention that Joshua was taking him to see a friend before dying again. At dusk, the car is halted at a checkpoint since the authorities have received wanted posters for Joshua and Alfie. Joshua hides in the rear of the car, but a police officer notices Alfie and asks her to remove her hat. Alfie utilizes her abilities to cause a power outage in the vicinity, then distracts everyone with sparks on a sign. She then restarts the car and skillfully drives it into the city, successfully evading the police. Howell and McBride become aware of their escape through the police radio frequency. Meanwhile, an officer who shares Bowie's appearance from the same donor discovers the bodies near the roadside. Later, in the bustling city, Joshua attempts to query Alfie about Diendang's whereabouts, but she remains tight-lipped. Just as the authorities arrive on the scene, Joshua quickly whisks Alfie away on a train to avoid detection. During their escape, Joshua notices numerous women who bear a striking resemblance to Maya, but they are merely Sims sporting her donated visage. Alfie poses a series of profound existential questions, to which Joshua responds by explaining that virtuous individuals are destined for heaven. He doubts his own worthiness, and Alfie expresses skepticism about her own eligibility due to her non-human status. After a brief nap, Joshua's thoughts drift back to the day Drew entrusted him with the mission to wed Maya and gather intelligence. Drew also presented him with a ring containing a tracking device. As the sun sets, Joshua and Alfie disembark from the train and encounter their wanted posters plastered across the city's screens. A civic-minded citizen recognizes them and alerts the authorities, prompting Joshua to lead Alfie to a sim factory, where they meet Drew. Joshua's friend and former ally Drew has experienced a change of heart since the attack and now advocates for AI rights. He is even romantically involved with a sim named Cammy. Joshua implores Drew to extract Maya's location from Alfie, but the young AI's encryption is too robust. Instead, Drew offers to help Joshua trace Maya's ring, but reveals that she has passed away. Joshua struggles to accept this revelation. While Cammy distracts Alfie, Drew shares the findings of his inspection with Joshua. Alfie possesses the capacity for growth, and her powers will expand in scope and eventually enable her to control technology remotely. Just then, Alfie alerts Cammy to an impending arrival, but Cammy checks and finds only a food delivery awaiting them. After the door closes, an unexpected revelation unfolds as the delivery guy is revealed to be another boy, who is accompanied by a group of police officers before he activates a bomb inside the food box, resulting in Cammy's demise. The officers then enter the building, but Joshua arrives just in time and starts shooting them down while Alfie watches TV calmly. Joshua uses a cop's gun to defeat the remaining Sims and grabs both Alfie and a grieving Drew to escape, narrowly avoiding the arriving police. However, two officers, Howell and McBride, are revealed to be Sims, with Howell taking Cammy's head with the intention of hacking into her. Later, Drew's computer locates the ring in Joshua's old home, where Joshua finds it on the flooded floor after entering the house. While watching the security recording of the attack, Alfie warns Joshua of the approaching soldiers, but Joshua snaps and yells at her. Alfie starts crying, and Joshua finally sees her as a person, apologizing and hugging her. Drew enters to warn them of the attack, but he is shot down before he can say anything. In his final moments, he reveals to Joshua that Maya is Nirmata, and that's why they attacked 5 years ago. They were not allowed to tell Joshua because of his love for her. Joshua attempts to escape with Alfie, but they are quickly surrounded by Sim soldiers led by Haroon, and Joshua is knocked out. That night, Joshua dreams of the night he met Maya at a bar, and the story she shared with him. His father had taught her everything about AI, but he had to flee after the war started, leaving Maya to be raised by simulants who loved her as much as a human would. The following morning, Joshua awakens in a cell on a ship. Haroon pays him a visit and offers some clarification. Maya's father was the first Nirmata, but after his passing, she took on the role and created Alfie to prevent Nomad. The nuclear bombing in LA was actually caused by a programming error on the part of humans, who then blamed the machine for the mistake. If the Sims emerge victorious in the war, they have no plans to harm the Western world, they simply desire to coexist peacefully. The army is using Joshua's desire to see Maya as a means to manipulate him into leading them to her. Haroon ponders ending Joshua's life, but he is interrupted by a disturbance outside. Nomad is attacking their base. Joshua convinces Alfie to assist him in escaping, and he leaps into the sea, prompting the soldiers to open fire on the water. Once they believe Joshua is deceased, the boat departs, unaware that he is hiding beneath it. Upon arriving at the city, Joshua secretly observes the Sims and humans living together in harmony. People even mourn the loss of robots, and a Sim teacher educates children about the importance of peaceful coexistence. At nightfall, Joshua patiently waits for Haroon to drift off into sleep and triggers a mechanism in his mind which puts him in a standby mode. Josh attempts to flee with Alfie on a boat, but just as they make their escape, an alarm sounds, indicating the arrival of the American forces. Massive tanks emerge and commence the destruction of buildings and launch missiles. Witnessing this devastation, Alfie decides to separate from Joshua in order to aid her own people. Death and ruin swiftly consume the area, resulting in heavy casualties for both sides. Howell dispatches a simple robot across the bridge, causing it to explode and claim more lives. Subsequently, Howell sends a second walking bomb, but Alfie intervenes and deactivates it using her powers. Unfortunately, McBride emerges and shoots Alfie down, prompting a furious Joshua to take action against him. With Alfie unconscious, the bomb reactivates, compelling Joshua to flee with the child before the bridge is destroyed. Haroon consents to accompany Joshua in seeking Nirmata's assistance in repairing Alfie, while the remaining individuals continue their battle. Not far from their location, Howell rebuilds Cammy and inflicts harm upon her to extract information, only to kill her once more. During their journey, Haroon discloses that Maya completed Alfie a few days prior to the attack and utilized her own embryo to create her, meaning that Alfie is a replication of Joshua's deceased child. Later on, Alfie is taken by some monks into a special temple, and Joshua inquires if this place is Jian Dang. The monk explains that the word means heaven, implying that Maya is dead. A distraught Joshua enters the temple and discovers a recovered Alfie resting next to Maya's body, which is connected to a machine. Another monk reveals that Maya has been in this state for 5 years, but she isn't truly alive, the machine simply maintains the body's functions. The Sims are not allowed to harm Nirmata, so it's up to Joshua to finally disconnect her. Crying, Joshua apologizes for everything and turns off the machine. At that moment, the Americans arrive and start killing all the Sims in the area. Howl enters the temple and, holding Joshua at gunpoint, begins downloading Maya's consciousness into a chip. Haroon also shows up and shoots Howl, causing 2 other soldiers to retaliate and shoot him. Howl approaches to check on him, but it turns out she has a bomb strapped to her back that Alfie activates, killing her and both soldiers. Haroon then stands up and tells Joshua to destroy Nomad, so Joshua leaves with Alfie and Maya's chip. Unfortunately, they are immediately found by the Americans, who separate them before taking them away while Nomad blows up the area. At the Los Angeles base, Andrews instructs Joshua to eliminate Alfie since they cannot extract any information from her. Joshua approaches Alfie and whispers something, causing her to become agitated. Believing her to be dead, Andrews witnesses her vital signs drop on the screen. Joshua then takes Alfie to the incinerator, but en route, Alfie reveals she is unharmed. Joshua had simply asked her to enter standby mode. The girl utilizes her powers to crash the vehicle and block the road, allowing Joshua to escape with her. They flee to the spaceport, where Alfie employs her abilities to bypass the boarding machine. As they board a plane, Andrews orders the pilot to return, but Alfie uses her powers to guide the aircraft toward Nomad. After the civilians disembark, the guards enter the plane, but Joshua creates a vacuum, ejecting the guards into the sky. To prevent a massive attack on all simulation bases, Joshua prepares an explosive. In response, Andrews prepares a massive counterattack. Joshua gives Maya's chip to Alfie and instructs her to stop the attack while he sets up the explosive. Alfie hastily runs through the corridors and uses her powers to halt all missiles just in time, averting disaster. While Joshua sets up the impending explosion, Alfie rushes back, but mistakenly takes a different hallway, leading her to a room filled with slumbering Sims, including a Maya lookalike. She promptly extracts the Maya Sim and installs the chip, but unfortunately, it fails to work. At that moment, a few missiles manage to hit their marks and obliterate some robotic settlements. As Joshua's suit runs out of oxygen, Alfie appears and guides him to an airtight room while readying the escape pod. Enraged, Andrews unleashes his final weapon, a gargantuan octopus-like robot that captures Alfie. Joshua quickly shuts down the escape pod, and the door severs the robot's tentacles, setting Alfie free. As Andrews prepares another massive assault, the robot grabs Joshua, but Alfie utilizes her powers, forcing it to drop him before causing it to fall. During the chaos, the pod's door is damaged, leaving the duo to struggle with it as the bomb ticks down. With time running out, Joshua tells Alfie they'll reunite in the afterlife and releases the pod. As Joshua awaits the end, he discovers the Maya Sim functioning. The star-crossed lovers rush towards each other and share a final kiss before the explosion claims their lives. Alfie's pod lands safely on Earth, and she joins the jubilation of the now liberated simulants. Please click the like and subscribe buttons to receive more content. Thank you for watching.